Good day, it's November 13th, 2023. Our headlines today capture a spectrum of significant events from a groundbreaking victory in Ohio for abortion rights to key Democratic wins in the 2023 elections. We also delve into the Gaza crisis, where the UN chief urges a ceasefire amidst a humanitarian catastrophe. Additionally, the U.S. responds to attacks in Syria with a precision strike, resulting in 56 reported injuries. Stay with us as we unfold the details and implications of these critical developments. I'm Esmeralda Padilla-Gould, and welcome to The Pulse.
And I'm Sam Buban. In other news, Congress falls short in ousting Congressman George Santos. Shifting our focus to Africa, we'll explore the latest updates on the election in Liberia, Africa. Furthermore, today marks the 10th anniversary of the Super Typhoon Yolanda, a somber reflection on the impact and the progress since that devastating event. Stay tuned as we bring you comprehensive coverage of the stories and more. I'm Sam Buban. Thanks for joining us.
In a pivotal turn, a grassroots initiative in Ohio has secured a monumental win for abortion rights, standing as the most significant achievement since the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision. Volunteers mobilizing across party lines garnered over 2 million signatures for a constitutional amendment, emphasizing personal reproductive choices. This success, particularly in a traditionally Republican state, foreshadows potential advancements in the wider abortion rights movement. Ohio took the spotlight this year as the sole state with a direct vote on abortion rights, indicating a potential advantage for Democrats in 2024. In Virginia, Democrats maintain control despite Governor Youngkin's anti-abortion stance, while Kentucky witnessed Democratic Governor Beshear's re-election against a Republican supporting a near-total abortion ban. In Pennsylvania, Democrats reinforced their Supreme Court majority with Dan McCaffery, whose campaign centered on abortion access. Resources underscore that attempts by some Republicans to moderate abortion positions failed to sway pro-choice voters. Despite Youngkin's endorsement of a life begins at conception stance, pro-choice voters in Ohio emphasize personal liberty in decisions regarding abortion, contraception, and pregnancy continuation. Advocates stress the health significance, arguing against medically unjustified limits on abortion. This victory sends a clear message, echoing the sentiment of reclaiming personal freedom from government interference. Reproductive rights advocates in Ohio, supported by diverse groups, celebrated victory with notable endorsements from figures like Kamala Harris and Gretchen Whitmer. Despite challenges and attempts to manipulate the narrative, the coalition successfully countered misleading information, paving the way for this historic win. The triumph in Ohio marks the 7th consecutive success for abortion rights in various states. Despite misleading advertisements and efforts to moderate anti-abortion stances, Ohio's voters overwhelmingly supported the constitutional amendment, dispelling confusion propagated by opponents. This outcome serves as a beacon of abortion rights advocates contemplating similar initiatives in other states next year. While Republican leaders in Ohio pledged to continue challenging the results, abortion opponents, including Mike Gonidakis of Ohio's Right to Life movement, recognize the imperative to find common ground for future ballot campaigns. The focus shifts to crafting proposals resonating with voters, acknowledging the evolving dynamics in the abortion rights landscape.
Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
On November 7, 2023, Election Day unfolded across 37 states, delivering solid wins for Democrats. ABC News projections declared Governor Andy Beshear's successful re-election in Kentucky, alongside Ohio voters passing issue number 1 to enshrine abortion rights. Democrats also secured both chambers of the Virginia legislature and a Pennsylvania Supreme Court seat, according to the Associated Press projection. While Republicans celebrated Governor Tate Reeves' triumph over a strong challenge in Mississippi, the night primarily favored Democrats and their allies.
The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres urges an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza, stating it has become a graveyard for children. The death toll surpasses 10,000, with major UN humanitarian heads jointly calling for a ceasefire. Guterres emphasizes the urgent need for $1.2 billion to aid 2.7 million people, citing clear violations of international humanitarian law. Efforts at the UN Security Council for a ceasefire are deadlocked, with Israel encircling Gaza City. Guterres criticizes both Israel Defense Forces' actions and militants' use of human shields. The U.S. President calls for Palestinians' protection, but signs of restraints are limited. Aid trickles into Gaza inadequately, with only one border crossing operational.
On November 8, U.S. military forces conducted a precision self-defense strike in eastern Syria, targeting a facility used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and affiliated groups. The strike, executed by two F-15 aircraft, aimed at a weapons storage depot in response to a series of attacks against U.S. personnel in Iraq and in Syria by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's Quds Force affiliates. Secretary of Defense Lloyd J. Austin III affirmed the United States' readiness to take further necessary measures to protect its people and facilities while urging against escalation. The strikes were a response to ongoing threats and attacks on U.S. bases in Syria and Iraq. The damage assessment is ongoing, with Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh stating that the U.S. reserves the right to defend its troops if attacks persist. Since October 17, 56 U.S. personnel had been injured in these attacks, with injuries ranging from traumatic brain injury to minor injuries. All injured personnel have received treatment and returned to duty.
Congressman George Santos of Long Island, New York will remain a congressman as he awaits the criminal trial of 23 counts of indictment leveled against him. The votes to expel him from Congress was only 179 versus 213 who voted no, and 16 just voted present. The Republican-led effort to oust him failed 10 days ago as members of Congress from the home state of New York were not united in the idea of ousting him from Congress. Even as Speaker Keith Johnson of Louisiana also voted no, as the razor-thin majority of the Republican Party in Congress will be in peril by ousting George Santos. Speaker Johnson said the trial for Santos' criminal case has not even been scheduled and would rather wait for the outcome of the case before expelling him, and that it would set a bad precedent. Although Democrats in the House were united in asking him to resign, there were 31 Democrats who voted against his expulsion. It would require 2/3 of the House of Representatives to be able to expel Santos from Congress. The efforts to oust George Santos was led by Congressmen Desposito and Nick LaLota, who are Republicans from New York. LaLota expressed that the no vote may have something to do that the Ethics Committee will release the report on Santos on or before November 17 and may have been the reason for the holdoff among his Republican colleagues. House Republicans had also condemned George Santos's lies to voters and donors regarding his resume and biography, to the extent of falsifying his ties to the Holocaust. While the criminal cases filed against him is about fraudulently reporting political contributions for monetary gains and credit card frauds, and not just violations of Federal Election Commission rules. Congressman Nick LaLota expressed that they will make the effort again for a vote on the floor for Santos's expulsion, as soon as the House Ethics Committee investigation report is released.
The presidential election in the northern African country of Liberia is headed for a runoff election. President George Weah and popular contender Joseph Boakai both did not reach the 50% threshold to avoid second-round election. President Weah was at 43.79% and Joseph Boakai was at 43.93% of the total votes counted from 98.43% of the polling places reporting following the October 10th general election. According to a report by Reuters, the Liberia Commission on Election is now preparing for the runoff election. According to many political observers, this year's election in Liberia is one of the very consequential elections in the African continent, as many countries had been sustaining military coup d'etats and ending their fragile democracy. The most recent this year was the ouster of democratically elected president of Niger by the military. Gabon also had a coup d'etat this year that overthrown their president who was in office since 2009. Liberia had its own share of military coups that ended democratically elected civilian government. On April 12, 1980, the Master Sergeant Samuel Doe overthrown President William Tolbert Jr. In September 9, 1990, Prince Johnson overthrown Samuel Doe. The country was already ruled by strongman Charles Arthur Taylor, who committed so much atrocities and was convicted as a war criminal. Taylor, the country's 22nd president, resigned in 2003 amid international pressure and clamor from Liberians to bring him to justice for atrocities in what they call the Second Liberian War. President Biden and Mrs. Biden made an African tour this year to revive our influence in Africa and commitment to democracy. Several high-ranking officials of the Biden administration also visited Africa.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Last week, November 8th, the people of the province of Leyte, Philippines, celebrated the 10th year anniversary of the disaster that killed thousands of people when the super typhoon Yolanda made a landfall in Palo, Leyte, Philippines. At the time of the landfall, super typhoon Yolanda was packing 355 kilometers per hour winds that devastated Tacloban City, the regional capital of Region 8, and neighboring municipalities in the Pacific seaboard of Leyte and Samar provinces. Most of the victims died from drowning in the storm surge of the sea level reaching about 16 to 18 feet, and from being hit by falling debris as houses were destroyed by Yolanda, which was named internationally as Hurricane Haiyan. Our hearts and prayers goes to the family of the victims who are still coping with grief from their lost loved ones, especially those whose bodies were never recovered. President Bongbong Marcos was in Tacloban City as the main speaker at the Yolanda commemoration.
I remember very well how we were at a complete loss in the days following Yolanda. Where do we get relief goods? How do we bring them? How do we transport them to the people that are in need? I remember when I first arrived in Tacloban, there were 3 vehicles in the whole of Leyte that were still functioning. And these were the people who came, the NGOs, the different countries, even the private corporations who came. And they helped us in every way that they could, in both the relief, both in the rescue, and even in the rehabilitation and the rebuilding of Tacloban. And for that, they would come and they would bring all that we needed. They would bring relief goods, they would bring water, they would bring water purifiers, they would bring fuel, they would bring transportation. And we could not have survived without that. And so it is impossible to overstate how important it is to us what you did for us after Yolanda and in the years subsequent to Yolanda, where you never left us. You stayed with us and stayed with us for years until you could see that we had recovered. And for that, we owe you a depth of gratitude that we will never be able to repay. Be assured that the government is always striving to ensure that such tragedies of this magnitude will be avoided and will be adapted to. We continue to build disaster-resilient evacuation centers and emergency operation centers. We are also putting into place more centralized and efficient early warning systems, incident command systems, and disaster response strategies.
For those of you who had already forgotten, we will play a video from the Philippine government-owned television RTV Malacanang. It shows the resiliency of the Filipinos and the will to recover. We want to warn you that the video of the Yolanda aftermath may be too graphic for individual audience. Viewer discretion is advised.
Please direct your attention to our screens for the audiovisual presentation on the Yolanda story.
In the Philippines, the city of Tacloban bears witness to a tale of unyielding resilience and extraordinary transformation. An emotional journey through time as we vividly recall Typhoon Yolanda, a full decade of unwavering fortitude and the awe-inspiring renaissance of this remarkable city. Before the storm, Tacloban was a place rich in history, culture, and significance in the Philippines. Its vibrant cultural heritage, colorful festivals, and warm, welcoming locals made it a popular destination for tourists and a source of pride for its residents. It is also a thriving city, bustling with economic activity and serving as a hub for trade and commerce in the region. However, on that heart-wrenching day of November 8, 2013, the unthinkable became reality. Typhoon Yolanda descended upon Tacloban with unrelenting fury, leaving behind an unimaginable trail of devastation.
Siyado ka rin ka makaradlok adto nga nagtabo. Waray ko maikukumpara ang mga tao. Haros sugod man ang kasiring ko maobos ang mga tao. Kaya dadamang gud man ang nahilera ng mga patay didan tabi ang kalsada.
The tragedy struck and took away my family. I really didn't know how to start over again. And I felt that I had no reason to live anymore.
In the immediate aftermath, chaos and grief gripped the city. Families wept for their lost loved ones, and some residents chose to leave, unable to bear the devastation. Tacloban was a city in mourning, but amid the despair, some, determined to rebuild, stayed and stood strong in the face of the unimaginable.
Surviving Yolanda in 2013 was an eye-opener, but realizing the power in our stories was pivotal. Because yes, everything was taken away by that storm, but we gained stories that can put a human face to the numbers and statistics of climate science.
Ini nga luyot barko, amo niton balay. So sa nainabuan Yolanda, naubos na akong pamilya, akong nanay, tatay, duwa nga bugto, tapos naupon pa na akong anak.
Adto nga pag Yolanda makusog. Di kami maram ko nahin kami makuha ang pagkaon. As in talaga makuri kay anto nga panahon, di kami maram liwat ko nahin maunguan medisina para ng mga anak.
The journey to recovery began, a process of rebuilding, cleanup, and rehabilitation. Local leaders, NGOs, and the community came together to rebuild the city with the invaluable support of international aid. Infrastructure improvements and long-term projects reshaped the future of Tacloban.
Awit to, baga na ako ang galit pabahay. Adi ako yan na natrabaho, kuhan barbero. At least, baga nakakatalwa sa iganman panadlaw-adlaw.
Pinaagian, bulighan mga NGOs, nagpaka-abil kami ang mga balay. Salamat han lokal, nasyonal, international.
Usa pa, salamat kan Lord nga tanan. May mga tao nga iyaging gamit para mabuligan ang mga biktima ni Yolanda.
Now, in present-day Tacloban, the city stands reborn, a symbol of strength and the triumph of the human spirit. The community thrives, the economy soars, and the resilience of its people shines brighter than ever.
That's why I told myself that I won't waste a single minute of the second life that I was given. I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. I wanted to do something purposeful. And that's how I dedicated my life to climate justice activism.
Individuals have resurrected their lives, local businesses have prospered, and culture flourishes once again. As our journey continues, we stand united in awe of Tacloban's indomitable spirit. This is not just a story, it is a testament to the human will. We implore you to stand alongside us to support resilience-building efforts in Tacloban and other communities in need. Together, we shall face the future with unwavering hope, unbreakable unity, and a determination that knows no bounds.
The Filipino will always rise even from unthinkable tragedy. Well, folks, we're out of time for this edition of The Pulse. Join us again next time. I'm Esmeralda Padilla-Gould, and thank you for watching.
And I'm Buban. God bless your week.